People always talk about getting a start, and something that's slowly rumbling underneath is the bank of mum and dad. There's a massive amount of wealth transition currently happening, and particularly towards 2050, we're going to talk about the big numbers in the bank of mum and dad. Stay tuned.
I'm the ringleader, so listen up.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm good, but I'm actually a little bit shocked this morning. We're probably talking about the biggest intergenerational wealth transfer ever to exist.
Ooh.
It's shocking.
Ooh. In the history of Australians.
Yeah, I would say just in the history of in Australia, and it's all property focused. We're talking about $3.5 trillion expected to be transferred from baby boomers to younger generations in Australia by 2050.
2050
3.5
sounds like
trillion.
a long way away, but what's that, 25 years? That's pretty much two generations. Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. That's big numbers. Correct me if I'm
So
wrong.
just start spending it now, kids.
It'll be fine. Everything's going to be all right. But correct me if I'm wrong.
It'll be
That is
fine.
comparable to either the stock market or Australian super. Which one of the two?
Stock market.
Amazing. You know, when you think of that volume of money, it's quite astonishing. Currently, over $150 billion is changing hands every year, and that number's expected to grow. So, you know,
Oh,
it does raise questions. How does this impact the market? And where's it happening? Um, the average Australian inheritance is $125,000, but that's the average. You take that to blue chip suburbs, and we're fortunate to live amongst some of the most expensive real estate in the world. On the lower North Shore in the eastern suburbs, some of those inheritances are $500,000 or more.
yeah, it's big. Hey, I would have thought it would have been, that 125. I thought sounded about right. And I guess a 500 I thought was a bit low. But I guess it's going between normally two or three kids. So when you chop it up,
Yeah, yeah,
because
yeah,
each
spot on.
house is worth a couple of mil, chop it between three kids and someone else you love, bang, bang, boom.
And from the stats we've been looking at this morning, 70% of that inheritance is tied up in property. So it does mean homes are the primary asset, that are being inherited to help younger generations enter the market. 70% of that wealth.
So what does that mean?
The bank of mum and dad is booming. That's where the headline came from this morning.
Yeah, don't go to work today. Just chuck a sickie, relax. There's more cash moolah coming your way from mum and dad, kids. Just take a chill pill. Don't take a book in a holiday today.
Do you want to know a really good fact? This is probably my favorite one so far.
Yeah.
The bank of mum and dad are now Australia's ninth biggest lender, contributing more than $35 billion annually in loans, gifts, and guarantees. How good is that?
How much?
$35 billion annually, Australia's ninth biggest lender.
Is the bank of mum and dad?
Yeah, I just think
Wow.
that's astonishing. And
Wow.
it doesn't come as a surprise that 60 to 70% of first home buyers are now receiving some form of financial assistance from their parents. And I'm not always talking
How
about
much
money,
was
but
that? What was that?
60 to 70% of first home buyers are now assisting, getting some kind of assistance.
No.
Yeah, yeah, it doesn't surprise me. But guarantees are a big thing of this as well, a big part. they're not necessarily putting the cash down, but the loan's being guaranteed against the family house.
Yeah.
So
So I never realised that it was such a big number. Mums and dads are really chipping in for these kids, like very different
yeah,
to generations before.
yeah, 6 or 7 out of 10, when you look at it like that, families would be.
That is gold. That is gold. So mum and dad.
Yeah.
So how do we get into mums and dads' pockets? Let's give some people some tips. I
Well,
think
I
you've
look.
given away a good one. The guarantor of loans is a really nice path.
Yeah, so loans, gifts, or guarantees is one way or another that assistance can be passed down. I think it's a nice thing to do it as well. If you've got the backing of your mum and dad through your first property purchase, it went a really long way for me, and it actually, it was nothing to do with the dollars or cents, because there was no money passed through on the purchase, but like the emotional support is a big thing. But you can assist kids, or kids can ask for the assistance without asking for money, where either it's like a um,
Vote of
non-refundable gift,
confidence.
yeah,
Yeah.
vote of confidence, or as I said, using the family home as a guarantee against your loan, and that comes off once either your property value has gone up 20%, or your mortgage has been paid down 20%, or both of those things have happened at the same time. So it's not a forever thing.
Yes. That's interesting. So there's a lot of cash out there, and high level numbers. I know I always rattle around on these numbers, guys, but there's 11 trillion in property and there's 2.9 trillion in household debt. So, across Australia, and I reckon that's pretty low leverage. That's pretty low leverage. A lot of houses paid off. A lot of mum and dads okay. But hey, how do those mums and dads feel? They get the kids past 18, think it's time for themselves, time to enjoy, time to relax a little bit, and then they get sucked right back in with helping the kids.
Yeah, yeah, it's funny. I do talk to some families that are going around helping the kids with first home buyers, and they say, we can't extend ourselves any further because we've got 3 kids, and whatever we do for the first means we need to do for the other two.
Good point. I think there's yeah, splitting, those having the treating everybody equally is another thing that we do see with people helping their kids out. That's for
Yeah,
sure. That's for sure. So there's a
but
show, guys and girls. That's inheritance is a really really interesting one. It's real. It's factual. It is. We live in a very lucky country where people get to do this, but we treat it so seriously, the whole buying a home thing. But you can see how that's propagated itself, like people that were talking around barbecues in the 70s, 80s and 90s, and we do take property seriously, and now they're sort of quite comfortable.
yeah, that's right. And this is only going to get, this bigger picture we're talking about this morning. This is only going to get bigger. $150 billion changing hands every year, but by 2050, it's going to be even more. So watch this space.
Yeah, wow. All right, so kids, go knock up mum and dad tonight, take them to dinner, and ask them for a stack of money, because that's what everyone's doing, and that's what you saw in Novak Morning Minutes.
Yeah, look, I hope this helped. Even just bring things to light for you.
Yeah, and before we go, I just want to go back on something you mentioned, Billy. Um, Mum and dad will often feel that if they're helping their kid to buy something for 700 grand, that they're in the hole for 700. Mum and dad are in the hole as much as their child. But I liked what you said. If mum and dads are helping the kids, it's really that first 20% that the bank are interested in, that later 80% the bank will look after. So,
Correct.
mum and dad, if you're buying something for 700 grand with your kids, and well, they're buying it and you're helping them, there's 20% of that is 140 grand. That's
Correct.
really where that's because but then again, they're getting around that now with LMI and stuff like that, with not paying any lenders mortgage insurance and all that stuff that's coming through. So, but normally, yes, I guess if they're past that first home buyer thing, that 20% is 140 grand. As soon as you've got that in equity in that property, you can leave the kids on their own. So it's probably more like when they're buying a two-bedroom unit or when they're buying a house, that 20% becomes a little bit more apparent, a bit more real.
Yeah, that's right. And we are finding a lot of property transaction. It is multi-generational now. The parents are moving in with the kids, and therefore the home needs to be bigger and it needs to accommodate more than just a family of four. There
Yes.
are there are transactions happening like that, but for the first home buyer stuff, the entry level, yeah, you'd be surprised. The guarantee's normally in place for 2 to 3 years, and that's a combination of the market going up and the mortgage being paid off, and quite quickly it disappears.
Billy Drury, the old man, stuck in a young man's body. Thank you very much.
Have a lovely day. Thank you for your
Have a
time.
great day, everyone. Take care. Bye bye.